Nigel Gwynne-Evans, what's the state of cluster development in Africa?
Well, clustering in Africa has been going for probably around 10 years in Africa as a whole. I'll talk a bit more about South Africa, but certainly across Africa there's been a movement which consolidated itself as the Pan-African Competitiveness Forum about 7 or 8 years ago, and driven very much off the back of some of the initiatives supported by some of the European donors around innovation systems. Now, to be a little slightly controversial, I think while innovation systems are critically important, I believe there's still a fundamental role for basic clusters in Africa, whereby networks can be created between players, between actors, at a fairly basic level. And I think there's still a great need. Africa has many challenges in terms of the ability for firms to network effectively. There are many infrastructural challenges. There are many coordination challenges between the state and the private sector. And I think this is where clusters can play a really primary role in terms of overcoming the many challenges in the most suitable way that's of benefit to industry. I think if one looks at some of the World Economic Forum reports on the state of doing business, Africa generally is very well represented in the bottom part of doing business. It's certainly the most difficult continent to do business in. However, things are changing quickly, and I think this is where cluster initiatives can play a significant role in really speeding up the responsiveness of government, really tackling the major challenges that industry faces. So this is where I believe African cluster initiatives need to move towards. So really how does one create the environment that is conducive to business? I think the challenge is in Africa, though, that it's still very dominated by big, heavy governments and by big, resource-intensive role players, which obviously makes it a challenge to get a more broad-based process moving. However, I think this is where they can play a significant role. Maybe talking about South Africa particularly, we've had let's say, a checkered history in South Africa around clusters. We started off 20 years ago with national cluster processes, but they were based very much at a federal level, and many of them did not succeed. They did not really move ahead after 3 or 4 years. However, at a local level, a regional level, certainly in my region, we've very actively pursued a cluster policy for now over 15 years. We have over 5,000 members. We've got about 150 staff employed in supporting our clusters, and that ranges across from resource intensive, from agri sectors through to manufacturing, through to service sectors, and we believe we've had a very significant impact on changing the trajectory of some of our industries. So, and what's interesting is while South Africa essentially turned their back on clusters initially as a national focus, there's now because of the success of what's come through from the Cape region and from some of the other regions now, there's now a renewed focus on clusters at a national level. So it's been quite an interesting transition, and I think we've learned a lot of lessons on how to do it and how not to do it. So,
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.